You have to deal with it. Which probably said, but I'm not sure what
We have a special surprise.
She's over there. Now, are these right? Because the ones on the list weren't right. No, they're it's
For you, anything.
Want to make the seat show this game?
It gets messed up somewhere in here.
Is there sound in that?
Oh, yes. Frank, what's your favorite movie of all time?
You mean one that Film Society has shown? Or?
Oh, anything you can think of.
2001: Space Odyssey comes to mind.
Oh, good choice. In my top 10, no doubt. No doubt.
Well, it's even like this one. They were describing this on
I wrote a poll the other day of the top 5 of all time.
all you see is the shadow.
Of course, somebody.
Most seen, the television prize that says Keene was
Oh, I guess.
came out. It was a
What
very
size screens were these?
big deal.
Well, actually, I think it was kind of
When the Film Society was suggested to me by 3 students back in the spring of 1971, they were students in one of my English classes, and I immediately thought that that was a good idea, primarily because you must understand that Keene at that time had 4 commercial movie theaters, the Colonial downtown, the Latches Theater, which is now where the Subway shop is, and I think much better placed than the Subway shop, actually. Should have left it alone. And there were 2 movie theaters over in the Bradley's Plaza, a small twinplex. The 6 movie complex hadn't been built yet. Television really offered, there was not cable. There were just 10 channels. You could get CBS Saturday night movies and things like that. There was no rental of movies possible. There were no VCRs, there were no videotapes, no CDs, CEDs, nothing. So when you went to the movies, you went to one of the 4 shows in Keene. The students didn't have TV sets in their rooms, and this wasn't possible. So when the students came to me and asked me would I set up a film society, it made great logical sense to me. I always had liked movies. I wasn't teaching courses in film then. And these seemed to be interested students who wanted to give it a try. So we got some catalogs together from Clem Williams and Budget Films and Swank and places like this, and started showing films over in Waltz Lecture Hall. The 25-cent admission, we showed Citizen Kane, King Kong, the Kane Mutiny, and the film you're about to see tonight, Rebel Without a Cause, on 16mm prints, just on projectors in the back of the room. And often the place was packed, and I think that was because there weren't really any other outlets for film here, and people like film. Keene has never been known as a film town, but I think that's changing a little bit, partly through the efforts of Rush DeRocher involved in keeping the Colonial open, and partly, I think, in our own way, through this room. While we only have 156 seats, we do have a beautiful sound system and beautiful projection facilities which we intend to improve upon. Now, this room was completed in 1988. In May, our first film was Oklahoma. This room wasn't inexpensive, but I must say that the Film Society, while we do use it, and I suppose don't pay rent in any official way, have, as an organization, put over $30,000 into the room in terms of capital improvements into some of the devices in the back. And so that works out to about $1,000 a month, so I think we're paying our way. And students up until this point have been allowed to come to the films for free. So I have a lot of fond memories of those early years of the Film Society. We showed films once a month, and it was a pretty informal organization. The name of the Film Society used to be the Fine Film Society, but in 1975, after our screening of Pink Flamingos, then President Redfern said, I think you ought to drop the fine from the Film Society. So we became the Film Society. If you've ever seen that film, you'll know exactly what I mean. Well, I don't want to take a lot of time. I'd like to introduce Vice President Alina Hickey, Vice President for Student Affairs, who's been kind enough to come in the President's stead and make some remarks concerning this organization that seems to continue to move along. So, Vice
Thanks,
President
Larry.
Hickey.
When Dr. Sternick asked me to come and make remarks on her behalf, I was thrilled.
I've known Larry since I've been at Keene State since 1975, and the only thing he's ever talked about, at least at my company, is the Film Society and his enthusiasm and interest in films. So to be a part of this 20th anniversary has a lot of meaning for me personally. He has, with the help of the students that he started with, and those of you who've worked with him throughout the years, really moved us to having a highly respected film society and the envy of many institutions around the country. And I think if it wasn't for his film society, we wouldn't have this room today. We wouldn't have the interest in the community in providing this kind of facility at a college like Keene State College. In 1983, he and Bob Gunther hooked up, and Bob has been an incredible addition to this program. Many of you know Bob and have worked with him. He's dedicated. I heard tonight that he worked for a couple of months without any pay at all in the early days to get the Film Society moving forward. What's exciting about having this film and this evening is that my understanding is that Bob is in the film, and we need to look for him handing James Dean the knife. Is that it?
Yep.
Just, again, let me just say how wonderful it is to be a part of the celebration and acknowledge both Larry and Bob and the students that have worked so hard over the years with both of them to bring the society to where it is today.
Thanks, Bill. Before we start the film, there's, as far as I can tell, now I don't know if I missed anybody, there's five people who are, this is Ralph Edwards, This Is Your Life, who have come back to the celebration, and I'd like to ask them to come up in chronological order, just to make maybe a couple of remarks, some memory, something which they would like to, I hate to use that word, share. Where's he? Share with the group. Starting really with Brian. I think you're the oldest. Do you think so? Oh, that's right, you moved it. Okay. Yeah. Mike Carrigan, who was president. Mike, when were you president? 76, 77? Oh, come on down front, Mike. You weren't expecting this, were you?
No. I've always loved film, and when I joined the society with Larry, it was quite a thrill because we didn't have that many people then, and I learned how to edit and be the projectionist treasurer and everything. At one semester, I think we did just about everything. It was something, I think we were in the audience at one point. But I really enjoyed working with everybody, and really enjoyed working with Brian Baronian and John Bishop, who isn't here tonight. And I really wish the society well and their growth for the future.
Thank you. Brian, you were president in 77, 78?
Yep.
You remember Gordon Walsh, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
You would have come to that. I remember when I went off on my sabbatical, he destroyed the Film Society by showing 2 musicals a week. We were $800 in debt. We came back, and no one was going to our film. I think it was 76, 77.
Yeah. Well, I was introduced to the Film Society at the end of my freshman year, the very end, and everyone involved in it were seniors. So I came back the next year, and I was the only member. And student government didn't realize this at the time. They were ready to drop the organization from the college ranks. And I convinced them at the time to give me a chance and see what I could do. So I was the president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary all rolled into one. And of course I had Larry at my side, which of course was immeasurable. And by the end of the second year, we were the most profitable organization on campus. And we had 20 members. We had field trips, we had guest speakers, and then by the end of my senior year, we had a gentleman from town who had heard about the Film Society because we had also talked to people within the community, and he got a film library worth $250,000. So you can see that the Film Society has come quite a ways. and something I'm very, very proud of, and something I'll never forget. A lot of good experience. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Danny Paul was president in 1982-83.
Camera down.
Danny, do you feel up to saying a couple of things?
Oh, I'll definitely
You were
do
the
this.
first, in some ways, you were the first film major. I remember you came in my house with a handful of videotapes.
Yeah, I remember that really well. I remember when I was a freshman, and probably next to my suitcase, even maybe more so, I was carrying around a projector in a black box. And that was probably my life at that time. And I remember speaking to someone in the admissions because I was curious about what Keene State had for a film program or film classes, if any. And someone directed me to see Larry. And I remember finding his office in the old Parker Hall, and I remember telling Larry that I had a bunch of Super 8 films that I'd made from grade school up through high school, and I'd like to show them to him. And I did. I remember that afternoon we were sitting somewhere up in some small classroom somewhere. I just remember running a few reels on the projector for Larry, and it wasn't long after that that Mr. Newman donated the films that Brian had spoke of. And everything just seemed to take off after that. All kinds of things happened to the Film Society and the film program. And I remember when Bob arrived in '83, and Bob and I think, became immediate friends because of our interest in film. And in regards to this movie tonight, a story I'll never forget about Bob. A bunch of us from the Film Society and the film classes, we were sitting in the old film room on the third floor in Parker Hall, and we found either a videotape or it was one of the old video discs of Rebel Without a Cause. And we had heard that Bob was in this movie. And we asked him, Bob, who are you in Rebel Without a Cause? What character do you play? And Bob said, well, I'm not going to tell you. He said, you guys watch the movie, and when you see someone that you think is me, you call me in and I'll let you know if that's who it is. So the film goes into about half an hour, and we see the group of kids. It's kind of hard to pick out who just maybe who, but there's one particular scene which you'll see tonight, and they get the knife out for James Dean. And it cuts to this big medium shot of Bob looking very mean, taking the knife out of his pocket. And we all go, that's Bob. And he said, Bob, get in here, I found you. And sure enough, Bob walks in, takes a look at the screen, and I'll never forget his reaction. Oh, please, spare me. But I have a lot of fond memories of the Film Society and of the film program, and I'm really glad to be able to come back here tonight, and this facility here is marvelous. It's something we had kind of dreamed of when I was here, and it's great to see that it's become a reality. Joanne Fortier, you were president in, let's see.
87, 88.
Okay, I have it. Yes, Joanne.
Yeah.
In Nashville now, I got that
Yeah.
right.
In Nashville.
Well, thanks for coming over.
I don't know what to say. I was president in 87, 88. And I got into the Film Society during my freshman year, at the beginning of my freshman year, because being a young freshman and not knowing anybody, I went to Larry's Intro to Film course, and Larry stood up in the front of the room and he went through the whole syllabus with us and explained everything we were going to do, and we watched a few short films, and then at the end he said, well, there's also a Film Society here. And he told us when they met, and proceeded to go on for, I think, about 20 minutes talking about the Film Society. And we said, oh, well, okay. I think I figured a lot more people from the class would show up at the meeting, but they didn't. It was mostly people who had been in the Film Society the previous year, and me. I was also the only female in the room. So I was sitting in the third floor at Parker Hall with a group of men I had never met before, and they were all talking. And Bob was walking through and making comments. And I kind of amaze myself now thinking that I stayed, because that frightened me a lot. Well, Bob and Peter and everybody else. But I did stay, and I came back year after year. I dragged some friends back with me. We begged Larry to teach a Hitchcock course at one point, and he did.
Yes.
And since I had been kind of raised on film, I really enjoyed being part of it and being able to see all the films, and interesting films that most regular movie theaters didn't show anymore. And I enjoyed being with other film fiends, other people who were just insane and would rather watch a movie than almost anything else. And it really enhanced my learning experience here. I was a theater major. And so it helped me in what I was doing in the theater, being able to see fine actors working on film. It gave me a wonderful group of friends that had similar interests. And the things that I learned from Bob and from Larry, I can't even imagine how much I've gotten from them in the knowledge of film and everything else. I really had a great time. Since I'm up, yeah.
You were president in 88, 89, 89, 90.
No, what was that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And vice president in 88. Let's see, you were president of Keene State College and...
Yeah. Well, so there I was, and I was actually older than most everybody else going. They were freshmen. I was probably a junior at the time, and I kept going to the movies at the Film Society because they were good movies, and I liked the movies a lot. And I was friends with Joanne, so every once in a while I would go, and she'd be there, and she'd be like, "I really need somebody to sell tickets, or I really need somebody to do this," and I'd be there, so I'd help out. And next thing I know, I turned around, and I was vice president. It just kind of happened like that. I said,
You
"Oh."
missed the meeting like I did.
Yeah, I was just, all of a sudden, she said, "Come to a meeting with me," and everybody said, "Hi, you're our vice president next year." And I said, "Oh, okay," so that was pretty neat. I guess I'm probably really fortunate because when I started doing Film Society stuff, we were in Drennan, and it was Drennan, and it was fun and everything, but by the time I was done, we had been here for a while, and I was fortunate enough to be around for Lawrence of Arabia, although at the time, I've seen Lawrence of Arabia 14 times in a row. I think that's a world record. but it was worth it, and it was most enjoyable. And I too appreciate everything that I've learned from Bob and from Larry. But I especially like the gossip. We got a lot of good Hollywood, what happened back then gossip, which was very important. And I'm glad I know that kind of stuff. Maybe I'll write Hollywood Babylon 3 or something, I don't know. But that's it.
Thanks for that. Well, thanks very much for listening to our retrospective remarks about the Film Society. I think that we're about ready to start up. Now, the first 11 minutes of this film is preceded with wardrobe tests, some rare, not seen before footage of James Dean with Joanne Woodward instead of, what's her name? Julie Harris in East of Eden. And I think some material that will, in a sense, enhance your enjoyment of the film. So, 1955, Rebel Without a Cause.
The thing with the sound menu footage.
Well, we can tell about that later. Keep that a secret.